Hi everyone, hope you are all doing great. Today we are gonna see how an agent work in Elixir and also common tips and tricks to keep in mind when work with this great OTP module in Elixir. So what is an agent? An agent is just abstraction around state. So the main goal of an agent is just to store state and then retrieve in some part of our application. And that's it. It's common to commit some mistakes when work with agent because we tend to add some complex logic around it, but the main goal of an agent is just that store state and retrieve that state. It allows the state to be retrieved and updated via a simple API. One of the main features of an agent is that it is quite easy to store and retrieve the state when we work around that module. We are going to use agent.get to retrieve the state and agent.update to store the state that we previously stored in our agent. Also, it is quite easy to control the lifecycle under a supervisor when we work with an agent. So let's see some code. So let's say that we are building a payment application in which we are going to send money between users, and this part of the application, when we want to store all the currencies that will be available in application, the idea is to store that inside an agent. So that will be the main goal of this agent. So if we go to the agent, what we are going to see first is that we are using a use agent. What is doing this use agent? So under the hood, this is bringing the behavior of an agent to the current module so we can have available all the callbacks to use in our module. Another point to take into account when we include the use agent is that this under the hood is bringing to us the child spec function, so we can add this module in a supervisor and we can use that module in the application startup. That is an important point to keep in mind when we see the use agent. The start link function will be the main function of the agent and will be the function that will be starting this process. So when we declare the start function, the start link, this will be creating our process, and we need to provide the initial state of the agent as a function. In this case, the agent will only have a list empty of currencies, so in this case we are providing a function with an empty list, and we are also providing the name of this process of this agent, and this name will just be the name of the current module. Then we can see that we have two functions. The first one will be to add an element to an agent, and the second one will be a function to get the element of our agent. So the add element will be calling the callback of the agent called update. So in this case, what we are going to do is add a new element to our agent. In this case, the add element, what it's doing is adding a new element of the list. In this case, we are using this kind of way to add a new element on a list. And then we have the get elements, and this will be the function that we are going to use to retrieve the state that we have in our agent. So let's run this agent to see how this is actually working. In order to use this agent, what we need to do is add the agent under the supervisor, so after the application startup we have available to use this agent in this application. So in this case we can see that, for example, if we call the functions of our agent in the console of Elixir, and we call the get element. We can see that this is returning an empty list because we don't have any state stored in our agent. And then we can, for example, add elements calling the add element function, and here we can provide a new currency, for example. After that, if all went well, we can just go and retrieve that element of the state. So let's say that we wanna add some heavy operation in the startup of the agent, and let's see what is the behavior of our application. So let's say that we have this expensive operation that will take 4 seconds to finish, and we are gonna add this function in the startup of the agent. So if we start our agent, we are gonna see that the client is being blocked for 4 seconds, and this is obviously a bad design. What is the morale of this? Well, when we work with an agent, we can't add a very expensive operation, logic that takes too much time, because the client will be blocked until that operation is finished. What can be a possible workaround for this? Let's say that we need to make that operation, that heavy operation, in the startup of an agent. Instead of using that logic here in the start link, we can create a task, a separated task, and when that task finish, then we can backfill the state of the agent, avoiding the agent to be blocked. That is a possible workaround for that. Let's say that we want to add some expensive operation inside the agent on the agent.get. Imagine that we are gonna retrieve the currencies from a database or make an external API call to get the currencies, something that will take, in this case, 4 seconds to execute. So in the agent.get, in this case, we are gonna add more currencies. This operation will take 4 seconds, so we are gonna see in this case how will be the behavior of our agent if we add a function that takes too much time. So we can see that if we call the get element, this will call the agent.get, and this operation will take 4 seconds before returning the control to the client. So this is a very bad practice because the client will be blocked until we finish the execution of the heavy function that we added inside our agent. A possible workaround, if we still need to add some or execute some heavy operation, is to move that heavy operation outside of the agent. That way the client will be not blocked anymore. But we need to take into account that if we make that move of change this heavy operation to outside of the agent, if another process, let's say process B, modify the state of the agent, this can lead to a race condition because maybe we can be returning an outdated version to the client of the state. So we need to take that into account. The good part of modifying the state inside of the agent is that since processes in Elixir are mailboxes, we can be sure that one and only one process can be accessing to the agent and modifying the state. Don't forget to visit learnelixir.dev in the blog section. Here we can find great articles about how to use tasks and Gen server. This is the article of Gen server, and here we can find very useful information. So don't lose the chance to take a look. Thank you for watching and keep learn Elixir.